back to another occasion of the Konrad Adenauer Stiftung interview series ahead of the German federal elections in September 2021. My name is Gabriele Baumann and I am the head of the KAS Stockholm branch, which has projects in all 5 Nordic countries. As part of this series of interviews, we have decided to ask Nordic experts with a long-term relation to Germany to tell us more about their expectations and perspectives. Joining us today on a Zoom link from Copenhagen is Lykke Friis, political scientist, director of the Think Tank Europe, and former Danish Minister for Climate and Energy. Lykke Friis worked also as a correspondent for the Danish newspaper Berlingske Tidende, covering German issues. One of your latest books, Lykke, in Danish, is En kuffert i Berlin, Reise i Angela Merkels Tyskland, published in 2018. I guess you translated like a suitcase in Berlin, travel in Angela Merkel's Germany, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I know, Lykke, your German is perfect and we could have easily led this interview in German. I have also learned that you like German football and are a fan of Bayern München. That probably didn't come naturally. So my first question to you, Lykke, would be, what was your first experience with Germany?
Well, it's very difficult to say, and thank you for having me, because well, my mother was German, so basically I grew up with Germany as my Mutterland, as I always say. You could say, and I have Denmark as my Vaterland, Deutschland my Mutterland. So I've always considered myself having 2 nationalities, but it must have been sort of visiting my grandmother in Kiel. I mean, that sort of must be my first sort of experience with Germany. Obviously also German television, Sesamstraße and so forth. I remember that as well. But yes, for me, Germany is definitely very close to my heart. I consider myself half German. And now that this is a session with the Konrad Adenauer Stiftung, I've even sort of gone as far as follows, that my dog is named after Konrad.
Okay.
The Chancellor, yep.
Great. Okay, thank you. That's interesting. So I think it was yesterday I read a short article in the newspapers that Sesamstraße is now celebrating its 50th anniversary.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, it's also, I myself, I was grown up with Sesamstraße, so really I feel how you it must have been for you as well, because it really has been very decisive for me as well. Yeah, thank you. Oh, you didn't answer the question about football.
Well, I mean, obviously, I mean, that's Bayern Munich is the best team in the world, so that's my team. No, I mean, the answer is that I went to the German-Danish school here in Copenhagen, just here around the corner. And at that time in the 80s, you were either a supporter of Hamburger Sportverein, HSV, or you supported Bayern Munich. And my family, well, we went to Munich for summer vacation. That's where I lost my heart to Karl-Heinz Rummenigge. So since then, I've been sort of probably one of the sort of most sort of strongest supporters of Bayern Munich, at least in my country.
Okay, thank you, great. Yeah, Lykke, you are one of the most quoted commentators on Germany and Denmark. Would you say that Germany and the role of the European Union is discussed enough in Denmark? If not, why isn't it discussed more?
No, it's definitely not discussed enough. I would say that I'm pretty sure that if we would make a study once the German election is over, that you would have, I mean, the American election having, I mean, by far sort of outdone the coverage of the German election, simply because, well, I mean, that was covered almost 24/7, the American election. We are having sort of stronger coverage and also stronger interest in the German election. But I mean, frankly, I think one of the core reasons why we don't have that much coverage and also discussion is that very few Danes, unfortunately, speak German. And that goes for journalists, politicians as well. So that puts us in a situation where it seems just far easier, I mean, for a Dane to follow Brexit, the British election, or the American election. So this is actually something that I think where Denmark as a country has to step up its game. And there's now a big discussion going on in Denmark about whether we should have a Deutschland strategy, so developing an even closer relationship to Germany, also focusing upon our language skills. That this is definitely something where we have to improve, because we've seen for the last many years that the number of students choosing German language in school, I mean, all the way from basically when they enter school to and university, well, there's a decrease in numbers. So this is actually something where one will have to have also political decisions in the years to come. But if you ask the Danish citizens, and I think that's very interesting, we just did that here in my think tank together with European Council for Foreign Relations, the country that's most important for Denmark, or rather the country that you think that your government should improve its relationship with, which country is that? Their Danes answer Germany, and that Germany is actually more important for Danes from United States and also United Kingdom. So I think one can see a change also in the Danish public, greater awareness, obviously not just trade-wise, but I think the overall COVID-19 crisis also played a role, because I mean, Denmark, as I'm sure that many of our viewers will know, I mean, Denmark was part of the Frugal Four camp, so not really very interested in having sort of the recovery fund or an increased budget. But at the end of the day, I mean, that was where the compromise was. And it was Germany that changed its position, it changed its policy by suddenly then agreeing to common debt in Europe. And that was a big surprise here in Denmark. So that has sort of changed a bit sort of the focus and the realization that something important is happening in Germany. And you could say now with Angela Merkel, the chancellor, leaving office, there is also a feeling that there could be a Wenderstimmung in Germany, at least sort of in the sense that now there's a change of guard, and what's going to happen, who's going to succeed Angela Merkel. That is something, it would go down here to the main pedestrian street and ask people about that lots of people would say, yeah, who's gonna be her successor? So I think that's a topic that actually stirs some interest in Denmark.
Oh, okay. Yeah, interesting. I mean, I would also later come to the question of the election, how you would assess this. But so I assume you have the same situation in Denmark as you have it in Sweden. Means it's hardly possible to learn German at school. Its second language, of course, is English, and then it comes to French or Spanish. Would you say that? Because I'm wondering why so few people really learn German, because Germany is a neighbor country and important also for of course, for trade, for economy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure about the figures. I haven't seen the figures for how we compare with Sweden, but you have the opportunity to learn German. The problem is that not a lot of students actually choose German. And why is that? I think there's a myth in Denmark that, well, Germans speak English, so why on earth should you bother about learning German? And obviously you could say that, well, it's not a myth that Germans don't speak English, but it's simply just if you want to understand the culture, if you want to have a good trading relationship, or as a politician. I mean, I remember distinctively when I was minister, as you alluded to, Minister of Climate and Energy. I mean, I was part of the camp of German-speaking ministers, which certainly put me in a different position than maybe my predecessor, because, well, I spoke German, so I could certainly sort of have conversations with my colleague Norbert Röttgen and various other sort of German-speaking ministers. Yeah. And that sort of enabled me to punch above my weight. And I have a saying here that I always sort of try to convince people that they should follow: mit Englisch kommt man durch, mit Deutsch kommt man weiter. Because obviously, if you're trading with Germans, I mean, you have to figure out, I mean, who's in the lead of the Bundesliga, or what's the difference difference between a person living in Munich from Hamburg, or just watch sometimes a German sort of television program. The people, what do people talk about in Germany? This is obviously something that improves your ability then to have a good conversation with another person, and that's why I think it's so important that we actually improve our language skills.
Definitely. That was a sentence I really made a note. Mit Englisch kommt man durch, mit Deutsch kommt man weiter.
So nice. Richtig,
yeah. I like this. I like this. Yeah, but we'll maybe now speak about the September elections in Germany. It's September 26. So current polls show the German Green Party as potentially the new largest party of the September federal elections. But you can say that right now it's like the Greens and the CDU is on the same level. And there are ongoing discussions about a possible future coalition between the Greens and the CDU-CSU. So as a former minister, you just pointed out your focus was on climate and energy. And this is these are considered to be primarily green issues. So what do you think? What effect would a green election victory have on Danish politics after Angela Merkel?
Well, I'd say that there's, I mean, part of the reason why Danish industry, but also politicians are having sort of a close eye on Germany than they would have had otherwise is exactly because of the issue that you mentioned there, the green transition. Denmark, as you know, is very ambitious with regards to our own green transformation. We would also like the European Union to step up its game. And there is obviously vital that Germany is also now becoming more ambitious. But there I would say, I mean, with the recent sort of judgment by the Constitutional Court, so in Karlsruhe, you can already see now that there's a change in Germany. So I'm not so sure whether it would have a huge sort of effect, what kind of sort of a coalition you would actually have in Germany, because with the new sort of goals, new targets that the present government just came out with, I mean, I'll definitely say that Germany is stepping up its game with regards to that. But yes, I mean, that is an area, I mean, where you could also have closer cooperation between Denmark and Germany. And another area where there's also sort of strong interest, that is regards to digitalization, where I don't think that I will, since I'm half German, I'm allowed to say that sometimes I think that Germany is a sort of a Dienstleistungswüste, or maybe you could also say sometimes digitalization is definitely not sort of the country that's most sort of developed with regards to that. I remember as a journalist, it was pretty much a shock when I had to register for the CSU party congress in Munich, where I had to send an email, a fax. That was a fax. I've completely forgotten what a fax was, but I figured that one out. So the digitalization is also an area. But otherwise, I would say that judging now also from the candidates running for chancellorship, I mean, it's difficult to see that there's going to be a huge change in the foreign policy, European policy of Germany. I mean, that's last year I just heard his big speech. I think that was the Konrad Adenauer Stiftung who broadcasted that on I think it was on the 19th of May, as far as I remember. That was very much Merkel 2.0. I couldn't really see a huge change there, and I can see maybe Annalena Baerbock with the Green Party. We're following that a bit, sort of with Nord Stream 2. There could be some changes also with regards to maybe relationship to China, putting more stress on human rights. That could also have effect on the relationship with Russia. But I think what for the Danish public in general is important to say is that it's still going to be a predictable Germany. It's going to be very stable Germany. A lot of people don't really know that, well, Germany, also due to its history, usually will form a majority government, which is completely in contrast to Denmark, but we always have minority governments, right? So it's very sort of there's a contrast there that in Germany it's still very stable, very much so spending time creating then a government which will have a majority.
Thank you very much for this assessment. It's very important for us, and our audience, I think, will be interesting as well. So you already answered to the question I wanted to ask you now, because so you would say that you would not expect any changes or development as regards Germany's foreign and security policy in the region. That's what you.
Yeah, well, I would not expect any kind of sort of revolution. I would expect eine Akzentverschiebung. How on earth do you translate Akzentverschiebung into English? So I'll see Germany shifting, obviously, on certain issues. I mean, I could definitely see Germany having putting more stress on human rights if the Green Party becomes part of the government, which it seems to be the case. However, also having been sort of a politician myself, there's also the realization that some things you say in an election campaign may actually change once you become minister, because realpolitik is still very much just a fact of life. And studying Germany's trade figures at the moment and seeing sort of the big increase that you have experienced Germany during the COVID-19 crisis with regards to your trade to China, just puts you in a special position, one would have to say. It also puts the European Union in a special position, because during the COVID-19 crisis, we now see that China is the biggest sort of trading partner with the EU. It's no longer the United States of America. So there are some shifts here, which obviously a new German government will have to be able to tackle and also find the right balance. But my point was simply just that we don't have in Denmark any kind of sort of people be very nervous about what's going to happen in Germany. I mean, there's a feeling that things will change because Angela Merkel is no longer there, and people felt Danes, maybe with exception to with the immigration crisis, people generally felt very sort of comfortable with her. So she was a pair of safe hands, the way with her Raute, as she always uses. So there is obviously some anxiety, but people generally think that it's going to be a stable Germany, and also a Germany that will play an even bigger role than today.
Thank you. Then I would like to ask you my last question. Conclude. What do you think Denmark can learn from Germany, and the other way around? What can Germany learn from Denmark? I mean, you mentioned digitalization.
Definitely, yeah. Digitalization is something also of our overall sort of public sector. It's a very digitized country, Denmark, basically. Now also with our Corona app, we already have obviously also the passport when you go to the gym, or if you go to the football stadium, everything is done digitally. Just show your mobile phone, and then people can see whether you've been vaccinated or not, or whether you've just had your recent test, just to give you one example. So we are not having our rollout of vaccine done with a fax machine, as I saw at least in some German länder. That's been the case. So that Denmark can definitely has something to offer, also with the green transition. But we can obviously also learn a lot from Germany. And I think one of the things that we should learn from Germany is that Germany always has sort of takes its starting point from the fact that it should somehow contribute to the development of the European Union. I saw the recent sort of statement by Armin Laschet, the new chairman of the CDU, and also now chancellor candidate of CDU-CSU, where he said, well, if you wake up a German chancellor at 3 o'clock in the morning, I mean, then the German chancellors would automatically think about what's the European solution, and how can we fix this problem from a European perspective. I think that is really, really important sort of message to the rest of Europe, but it's also something that we as a smaller country should also sort of learn something from, and ask, what can we do, not to sound like John F. Kennedy, but what could we do then to contribute to this overall solution? I mean, during the COVID-19 crisis, I mean, as I indicated, it was Germany who then together with France developed the recovery fund. It was Germany also that took care of lots of patients from France and from Italy, and flew them back to Germany, whereas we didn't really contribute there. We were very much in Denmark focused upon, basically, to put it bluntly, saving Danes. And I think that's where we could learn something from Germany, and having sort of this, always being aware of the fact that somebody also has to take care of finding a European solution. I think that is really, really important. And then hopefully with a new German government, there will also be a new start, you could say, to the German-Danish relationship, where we could find more areas of common cooperation. There was just also signed a new cooperation agreement between Denmark and Germany. That was because of the anniversary of when Denmark, when there was a referendum in the southern part of Denmark, where parts of Denmark returned, so to speak. So that was the occasion, but I think there is an opportunity with the new German government and with Brexit, with Britain leaving, for Denmark and Germany to find more areas where we can actually cooperate. And that's going to be my hope also for once we have the new German government in force.
Thank you. That was very, very good for the conclusion to say, okay, we hope for more cooperation in different areas. Relationships are very good, but especially when it comes to find European solutions, there could be more contributions also from Denmark together with Germany, and Germany is the country who supposed to play the kind of the really driving to have the driving significance also, and driving force, to be driving force, what it always has been in the past, and maybe it's even more relevant now after the Brexit.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you very much. That was really interesting, and it's so good for us to have the different voices from the Nordic region, from Denmark, Sweden, and next week from Norway, and hopefully from Finland and Iceland as well, in order to understand what experts, politicians think about relationships, and what they expect from the outcome of the elections. Thank you so much, Lykke Friis, and I hope to stay in contact and
absolutely
to meet you in person as soon as possible. All the best for you, and have a good day.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye bye. Alles Gute.